AEW Wrestling. I love it! Today we're going to talk about AEW Fyter Fest. Fyter Fest was a 2-night show. Part 1 being last week, part 2 being this week. We're going to review the full show here. We're going to talk about everything. This was a pretty good show for the most part. Some things, obviously with every wrestling show, there's some things that are, negative, positive, or what have you. Gonna remind everybody that has not done so already, hit the like button, subscribe. The like button pushes it out in front of more people as popular content. The subscribe button gives me a reputable base as we push our way to 600 subscribers. We're gonna talk about Fyter Fest right here. Talk about nights 1 and 2. For the Great American Bash, I did part 1. I'll do part 2 for that tomorrow. But this is your AEW Fyter Fest review. Go nowhere else. Oh, I realized a lot of things. The first thing that I realized is that there was actually a lot of matches on this card. Before I go into any more depth type of things, the Brian Cage and Jon Moxley AEW World Title match was pushed to Fight for the Fallen next week. Now, I don't know exactly how they're building Fight for the Fallen. I'm saying that they're going to build it as a special edition kind of show, not a pay-per-view where Fyter Fest had more build to it. Fight for the Fallen is kind of just rapid fire. I believe Cody Rhodes and Sonny Kiss is also going to take place next week on Fight for the Fallen. We're not going to preview that show. We're just going to review it. But I'll give you my thoughts here since we're here now. I do think that Jon Moxley is going to retain the AEW World Title. No reason for him to lose it, at least not to Brian Cage. We're going to get started with Fyter Fest here now. Night number 1 opened up with MJF and Wardlow versus Jurassic Express. Now, I think at some point in time, we should be subjected to, hopefully, Wardlow versus Luchasaurus. Now, another thing I want to make mention of is that Wardlow really showed out in this match. He's a lot more athletic and strong than I thought he was, where I thought he was just kind of a power piece. MJF gave a promo before the match with his usual brand of wit. Jungle Boy started strong with a clothesline before MJF and Wardlow overpowered him to take control. MJF did a little strut to taunt Luchasaurus before bringing in Wardlow to throw Jungle Boy around like a rag doll. Obviously, Jungle Boy being much smaller than he is, he was going to get thrown around the whole match. They prevented a tag from the Human Dinosaur. Heel tactics, obviously. We're talking about MJF here. Luchasaurus finally managed to get in the ring and took the powerhouse down with a flurry of kicks. MJF tagged out as soon as he had an opportunity. The two behemoths clashed with a few power moves that put both men on the mat. Once Jungle Boy recovered, he took out his biggest rival with a few dives outside the ring. Luchasaurus followed suit and took Wardlow out at ringside with a dive of his own. Marco Stunt tried to get involved, but Wardlow ended up throwing him into Jungle Boy, again using them as a bouncy ball. MJF tried to use his diamond ring as a weapon and wound up hitting Wardlow by mistake. This allowed Jurassic Express to take him out with a few moves to get the win. Obviously, I figured at some point in time if MJF and Wardlow were going to win this match, which I actually thought they were going to, that there was going to be some kind of heel tactics used in some way, shape, or form at some point in this match. Now, what we got was a mistake. Now, is that going to lead to an MJF-Wardlow feud? I don't know. I really don't know. We haven't had a regular Dynamite, and we're not going to have another regular Dynamite for 2 weeks. Maybe next week something is teased on Fight for the Fallen. But that's that. It was a decent match, As far as AEW tag team matches go, it was probably one of the lesser exciting ones because we expect a lot more from them. But for what it was a decent match to open it. And it was what it was. Coming up next was a match where I feel like a lot of fans were made in night number 1. It was the Women's Championship match. I felt like Penelope Ford made a lot of fans because she really showed out. The AEW Women's Division has been really lacking. It's not really there. You have a couple of people at the top. Hikaru Shida obviously is the ringleader. I like Britt Baker a lot, but then she got hurt. They've found a way to still keep her on TV, but she's been hurt. So that's kind of that. As far as everything else goes, Penelope Ford made a lot of fans, and this was actually a really good match. This was Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford for the women's title. Aubrey Edwards booted Kip Sabian from ringside before the match even started. As soon as the match began, Shida hit a running knee, and I thought for some reason, somehow, some way, there was a possibility that this was going to be the end. Ford tried to regain her composure, but she didn't get the upper hand until they took the fight out of the ring. She threw the champ into the barricade, but Shida came back and hit another running knee. The challenger dodged another knee and hit a back handspring elbow, followed by a German suplex for a near fall. We returned from a break to see Ford keeping Shida grounded in a camel clutch. The champ broke free and applied a sleeper and a stretch submission before hitting a brutal backbreaker for another 2 count. She hit her trademark Falcon Arrow, but Ford countered the pin perfectly. Both women almost had the win at several points. Very back and forth match. Sabin tried to interfere with a kendo stick, but Shida disarmed him and used it to knock his block off. Ford kicked out of a couple of finishers before Shida hit one more knee to the face for the pin and the win. This was a great match. Penelope Ford made a lot of fans, and I think that, you know, Nyla Rose, well, what Nyla Rose said after night number 2 last night, I have no really interest to see Nyla Rose in the main event. I don't know what it is about her. I don't mind her. I just have no desire to see her in the main event. Excuse me, I think she's so yawn. Very good match. Penelope Ford really showed out here. This was the best she's looked since coming to AEW, says Bleacher Report. Absolutely. Hopefully we get to see more of both of these girls as it produces further on. A little bit of an interesting match decision here. Or match order. I guess they didn't want to have this match because they wanted to bring the crowd down before they kind of brought it back up again. The match order goes, when I talk about this match, I kind of do really understand why they put it where they put it. And that's Cody Rhodes defending his TNT Championship against Jake Hager. This match could have went a lot better. I don't think it was bad. But obviously, I thought it was going to be the main event. You know, Jake Hager has been a nice factor in AEW, but I feel like in the ring-wise, we haven't seen enough from him. I haven't seen enough from him to the point where I'm going to really get behind him. Cody Rhodes, we know exactly who Cody Rhodes is. Cody Rhodes is one of the best bright light performers in all of AEW, and his value is unquestioned. Cody was at immediate disadvantage against the bigger Hager. He quickly found himself on the mat after trying to go full speed at him. The TNT champion went for a single leg takedown, but had to settle for a headlock when the big man refused to be taken down. Both men managed to counter an ankle lock submission from another. Obviously, if you know anything about formerly known as Jack Swagger, he does his submission. Hager went after Arn Anderson, but Cody dove over the top rope to cut him off. Hager caught him in midair and slammed him to the mat to counter a disaster kick. This allowed him to get his hands on Anderson. The champ tried to intervene, but the MMA fighter hit a suplex on the floor. Cody hit a beautiful cutter from the top rope as he began to gain some momentum late in this match. Hager's wife, Catalina, slapped Cody, but Goldust ran down, obviously, or should I say Dustin Rhodes. Bleacher Report has it listed here as Goldust, but little do we know, Goldust was in WWE, not AEW. Ran down and evened the score by hitting Hager. It allowed the American Nightmare to get the upper hand. Hager went for a submission, but Cody countered it into a pin to retain the title. The match was okay. I didn't think it was bad. Could it have been better? Maybe. I don't like the way that it ended. I don't like I don't like the way that it just ended in a roll-up. You know, that's kind of very anticlimactic to me. Hager was a powerhouse. We all knew Cody was going to do the heavy lifting and he was going to really carry the match. They had good chemistry with some exchanges, but something about this match fell short compared to Cody's other recent TNT title matches. Cody and Hager was okay, but obviously I think Cody needs to be in the ring with people that are a little bit, I don't want to say Hager's not good, but more seasoned and fit his style of wrestling. Guys like Omega, you know, I'm craving a Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega match. You have no idea. I can't wait till Kenny Omega goes on a single run. I really can't wait. Ending was a little bit awkward, but it is what it was. It was okay. Cody Rhodes retains the TNT Championship. Now, the second to last match here was all right. You know, it was, what's the word for it? It was a good match. It was Private Party versus Santana and Ortiz. I don't know why. Every time I think of AEW tag teams, I just think of flip, spot. And that's just always how I've been. Maybe that's not good, but it is what it is. Private Party is silently one of the best tag teams in all of AEW. They are so athletic, so good, and I think that they're really starting to make their noise. Matt Hardy has accompanied them, which I love the little pairing with Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy came with Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy to the ring by their match. Orange Cassidy was lounging at the announce table for some reason. Cassidy and Santana kicked things off for their teams. Santana gave a free shot and laughed at Cassidy's effort. This didn't stop Private Party from using their trademark high-flying double-team offense to take control. It didn't take long for Ortiz to ground Cassidy in a submission to slow down the pace a bit. After the commercial break, Private Party began to pick up some steam. After a furious exchange of double-team moves, Quinn was able to score the win for his team. Very fast, very quick. It was the second to last match of the first night, so I didn't expect anything unbelievable. When AEW has a tag team match and they're against the time, they really have to just do a lot of spots. you know, there was interesting spots. It was okay. Private Party, you know, winning this match should make them a top contender for the tag team titles, and that's kind of what it did by putting on a performance like this. Private Party beat Santana and Ortiz. Now, the main event of night number 1 was Kenny Omega and Adam Page taking on Best Friends in Tag Team Championship match. This was a very good match. Omega and Page are so great. Best Friends also. And there's something about watching Kenny Omega that should just be so special to everybody. Trent and Chuck Taylor showed up for the title shot in style, with Trent's mom dropping them off in a minivan like they were teenagers who couldn't drive themselves to a movie. That was funny as shit. Taylor and Omega started the match with a kick exchange of counters and takedowns. It was a textbook opening for a tag match. Neither man had a clear advantage. This led to Page and Trent tagging in and trading punches. FTR eventually came out to the stage with some lawn chairs and a cooler to watch the final 10 minutes of the show as the Hangman and the Cleaner started to dominate. We returned to see Best Friends making a comeback. Taylor hit a big dive to take out Omega so they could isolate Page inside the ring. Hangman fought back and took both men out with a series of signature moves. Trent countered a moonsault from Omega. Taylor followed with a spiked pile driver for a close 2 count. They came close again with their finisher on Page. Omega was right there to break up the pin. The Hangman hit the buckshot lariat for the win after a long back and forth. The show ended with FTR offering the winners a beer before getting into an argument. The way that night number 1 ended is FTR came in to give Omega and Page cheers after retaining their tag team titles. And basically, Page drank his, and Omega pretty much said, "I'm good," and poured it out. Hopefully, that teases to a feud. Now, if that feud means Omega and Page dropping the titles to FTR, I'm okay with that, because FTR is a great tag team. And I'm telling you what, if that match happens at the next big AEW pay-per-view, hopefully in front of a crowd, there's a chance for something really special there. And what could be one of the best tag team matches of the year. So that's night number 1. Good main event. Pretty good show. Some things, you know, was hit or miss. But I don't have too much to complain about in terms of night number 1 of AEW. I'm going to... We're going to get to night number 2 here. Fyter Fest continued last night, night number 2, with a couple of good matches. You know, the Jericho Cassidy match. Jericho tweeted out before the show last night that was one of the best matches he had in 30 years. Kicking off the show with a tag team match that was very good. And we started off night number 2 with another tag team title match. This was the Private Party versus Hangman, Page, and Omega. And this was another very good match. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I lied about this. I really did lie. I was thinking about the other match. This match, personally, it was okay, but it didn't really rub off the way that you thought it would have, and it could have been so much better than what it actually turned out to be. I don't think it was terrible, but let's talk about it. A week after Private Party knocked off Santana and Ortiz, they were back here. Challengers weathered the storm early to deliver the silly string to Kenny Omega. Isaiah Cassidy launched himself on the Page at ringside to continue the momentum, but a big lariat by Page turned Mark Quinn inside out, and the champions quickly retained control. Cassidy dropped Omega with a lower backbreaker and followed with a big enziguri. The Cleaner answered, sending Cassidy into his own partner. Page tagged in and slammed Cassidy into Quinn for a near fall. Quinn recovered and delivered a shooting star press for 2. The champions answered with the last call for the win and successfully retained the titles. This was one of the lesser exciting matches from Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Obviously, them winning was the right call. If they didn't drop the titles to Best Friends, I don't think they should have dropped them to Private Party. It's a little bit premature for Private Party to take any type of championship, and that's just my honest opinion. I don't know what it was about this match. It was okay, but for what it was eh. Next up was Joey Janella versus Lance Archer. In all honest opinion, I thought that this match was going to be a squash. I think if there was any match on any night, on any card, that needed to just end like that, it could have been this one. But Joey Janela showed out a little bit in this match, and this match was a little bit better than I thought it actually was going to be. Was it the greatest thing I've ever seen? No. But it was good enough. The bad boy withstood an early attack and wiped Archer out at ringside with a crossbody from the top rope. He set up a table and teased a steel chair assault. The referee Paul Turner cut him off. Archer seized the momentary opening and delivered a big pounce that sent Janella into the ropes. Archer punished and pummeled Janella heading into the break. The monstrous heel continued his dominance during the break, sending Janella into a guardrail. The bad boy, though, delivered a rolling elbow and a flurry of clotheslines. They had very little effect on Archer, who caught Janella in midair, who had set up the blackout, but Janella countered for a near fall. A bicycle knee strike by Janella stunned Archer. He followed with a senton, and Sunny Kiss added a 450 splash while the referee was distracted by Jake the Snake. The babyface could only score a count of 2. Archer recovered and delivered a nasty blackout through a table to get the win. This was a better match than I thought it was going to be. Wasn't the best thing in the world, but it was a much better match than I actually anticipated it being. I thought for a minute after the 450 splash from Sunny Kiss that we're going to have Janella win, and I was going to blow a gasket if Joey Janela beat Lance Archer, because Lance Archer needs to continue to look like a monster. And he does. And what championship he goes after, I don't know. They had the match. The inaugural TNT match was Lance Archer and Cody. But honestly, Lance Archer really could have benefited from that title. I know they wanted to add prestige, so they gave it to Cody Rhodes first. But this was fairly good for what it was. Taz came out. He talked about how Cage would be crowned the AEW World Champion next week. But he's not going into the match uncrowned. He produced the FTW Championship that he created 2 decades ago in ECW and handed over to the Machine. That's some renegade shit, he explained, before warning Moxley of what awaits him next week. You know, Taz is great at cutting promos. I don't really know what the point of this was. Maybe just playing mind games. Listen, AEW doesn't need another championship right now. You want to talk about something that's fantastic? Let's talk about this giant spot fest. FTR and the Young Bucks versus Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Bros. Excuse me. FTR and the Young Bucks versus Butcher, Blade, and the Lucha Bros. I knew this was going to be a high-flying spot fest. This was phenomenal and fun to watch. FTR wasted little time making an impression on AEW since they started. They teamed with travel restrictions that kept Pentagon Jr. and Ray from teaming up during the pandemic earlier this spring. The Bucks and FTR controlled the early portion of the match, overwhelming their opponents with a tag team expertise before a big pump kick from the Blade earned the villains the upper hand. Nick momentarily halted their advantage, but the heels regained control heading into the break. Matt tagged in but ate a big kick from Phoenix. Hardwood made the blind tag and dropped Blade before joining Jackson for a double super kick that leveled Butcher. Wheeler and Nick Jackson teamed up for the Goodnight Express and FTR's finisher. Hardwood and Matt delivered a spike and pile driver to Blade for a near fall. This was towards the end of the match. It was broken up by Pentagon. The great sequence saw the Bucks and FTR execute 3 tags and then deliver a double suplex to Blade, followed by a splash from Wheeler and a senton from Nick. The pinfall was broken up by Phoenix. Another phenomenal spot saw Phoenix launch himself off Pentagon's back and deliver. This was insane. He delivered a destroyer to Nick onto a pile of competitors onto the floor. This is a spot you have to go back and watch. An errant super kick from Matt dropped Hardwood off the apron, and the Lucha Bros made the pin for the win. This was a huge spot fest, but it was really good and really fun to watch. The eventual showdown, the Bucks and FTR surprising themselves by great chemistry. It furthers the tension. The eventual showdown is going to be a great match, perhaps match of the year candidate, when that time does come. AEW Tag Team Wrestling in the next half of the year is going to be something really special to watch. There are so many strong tag teams right now that are just unbelievable to watch. Nyla Rose, this is probably the worst part of all of Fyter Fest. Nyla Rose came out. We were told that she was going to be in action right before, I don't know, did they announce it last week or this week? She took on, you had a chance to bring someone back here. She returned to action, battling Kenzie Page and Killian King. 2-on-1 handicap match, no time, squashed them, easy. Afterwards, she shared down Hikaru Shida. She said, "My actions speak louder than words." She's revealing that every manager, or everybody that has success as a manager, she refused to announce who it was, but said that she is going to have a manager going forward. She looked like a beast, dominating her opponents, which we expected. Who is her manager? We don't know. We do not know who her manager is, and that's what makes it exciting, because we want to know who her manager is. Next up, second to last match of Fyter Fest, and that's SCU versus the Dark Order and Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana was nursing injuries before the match, but he was able to come out and get it going. I didn't care for this match, I'll just be honest with you. Again, SCU's great, Dark Order's okay, but, The rivalry between SCU and the Dark Order, I've been going on for a long time. The babyface team controlled early using quick tags and double team maneuvers to down Grayson, while an unamused Brody Lee watched on. Cabana, nursing a hematoma on his left side, took the fight to Sky as the heels resumed control heading into the break. The heels continued their beatdown of Sky, scoring a near fall off a frog splash by Grayson, as the commentary team put over the often overlooked competitor. The action broke down with SCU's Daniels wiping out the position of the floor. Cabana cut off a pinfall attempt by Daniels, creating tension between friends. Lee grounded Daniels with a lariat and ordered Grayson to tag Cabana back into the match so he could pick up the fall. He did, and the commentary team put over the effect of the relationship between Colt and the Dark Order, and he has had a win-loss record. The Dark Order and Colt Cabana win. It could have been a lot better. Closing moments were messy. It was what it was. Colt Cabana has been made to look a little bit more important on AEW. In all honesty, you know, he's one of those guys where I just can't get behind him. Brody Lee's fantastic. You know, it's almost like you wish there was more on AEW, wish there was more championships, because Brody Lee is another guy that I think would be great with a championship. But Cody Rhodes is going to hold that TNT title for a little bit longer. And that's what leads us here. It was okay. It was okay. But you know what was really great? That some people said wasn't that great? Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. The main event of Fyter Fest. This was so fun to watch. Orange Cassidy is, honest to God, should be one of the most treasured men in all of wrestling. His character, his gimmick, and how damn good he put it on in this match with Chris Jericho. The build up to this match was great. It was so much funny. Nothing about Orange Cassidy in this match rubbed you off as a punk. There was nothing Slaw style about Cassidy, though, as the Slacker fired an early onslaught that sent Jericho into the guardrail. A tornado DDT attempt was countered, though, and Jericho applied the Lion Tamer. As Cassidy reached the ropes, Santana and Ortiz delivered a cheap shot to the lower back, courtesy of the Mad Bull, that allowed their fellow Inner Circle competitor to gain the upper hand. Jericho countered the Superman punch, and Cassidy crashed to the arena floor, heading into the final break of the night. Lee Champion continued to systematically pick apart Cassidy, working over his midsection and core in an attempt to sap the life out of his opponent. He applied an abdominal stretch and grabbed onto the rope, but referee Aubrey Edwards kicked his hand away, following Cassidy to fight out of the hip toss. Seemingly awakened by the barrage of right hands dealt him by Jericho, Cassidy fired off a series of strikes in a Hurricane Rana. He added his shin kicks before stunning Lee Champion with a super kick for a near fall. Cassidy fought off a suplex attempt and delivered a big splash for the count of 2. Freshly squeezed added a planko that wiped out Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, and he then added a DDT for a near fall. Cassidy countered the Lion Tamer with a small package for 2. Before Santana and Ortiz threw orange juice in his face, Best Friends made the save, but Jericho capitalized on the distraction and used his baseball bat for a near fall. Jericho missed the Lion Salt, and Cassidy answered with Michinoku Driver for a 2 count of his own. The Judas effect caught Cassidy from out of nowhere, and Jericho picked up the win. This match was the definition of fantastic. Cassidy sold his ass off for Chris Jericho. Jericho's heel persona was great in this match. I will go back and watch this match over and over and over. And you know what else I'll do? If I were you, I'd hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. AEW Fyter Fest was a success. Thank you everybody for watching, and continue to stay safe.